Shortly after noontime on July 19th, 2016, I've got a brother who's turning 57 today. So.
Wow.
So he's 12 years younger than I am. So. I don't want you guys to think I'm a young fellow like that.
Well, we're right there with you anyways.
You guys are puppies.
Yeah. We got young John Rock and old Bob Garrell. And in between, Calvin Castine. Why are we here, John?
Well, we're here today to get a gathering of the CVBL players of over the years, from back through the 50s, 60s, right on up through to, well, not present day, but in the late 80s, 90s.
What's the CVBL? What's
the Champlain Valley Baseball League. It's all of us old timers. We get together once. The ones that are left of us, we get together once a year, and we have a luncheon and reminisce about old days and everything else. So.
Yeah, it's a little ironic today, Bob, that we're doing this on the 19th, and in today's obituaries, we see our friend Tom Kowalowski in there, who passed away just a few days ago. Now, Bob, you've been coming to these for a while. You're going to grab my mic here. Looks like I've lost it.
Oh, okay, there you go. I'll give it back here.
Bob Ben had that happen to him once, too. John Southwick, Dr. John Southwick, grabbed his mic. Took it away from him. You had to work hard to get it away from Bob Ben. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
You were asking about a little bit of the history there?
Yes.
I think, John, this is our third or fourth year, right?
Yes,
third or fourth
year that we've been gathering.
Everett Ezro and let's see, John and Elmer Dupre got together with this idea, and initially their first meeting was very small. We had mostly all of the Peru players meet with Gary Butler and myself, and that's expanded from there. The word got around, and everybody started to get word of mouth to guys, and so we had our initial turnout. We had over 40. Last year we had almost that number, and hopefully this year we're going to go beyond the 40 and probably get into the 50s. It's just a wonderful idea that was brought about by them, and the guys, they enjoy it. A lot of war stories, and it's just a wonderful gathering.
Yeah, we're here at the American Legion post 1619, and John, you've been involved in a whole lot of things that go on here at this post. In fact, I just saw you when the new bus came out for the honor flight, and you were there involved in that too.
Yes, we helped orchestrate the parade for that, and to do the presentation of the bus. So it's a great thrill and honor and pleasure to be involved in the activities. Of course, as Bob can tell you, throughout the years, we've got representation here from Line Mountain, Ausable, Katyville, which a lot of people didn't even know that Katyville did have a town team back in those days. But we've had some great competitive years over the years, with everything with the baseball, and we've all remained friends from that time on right up to today. So.
I've only known John for about 13 years when they raised that flagpole up in 2003 on Crab Island, but it seems like a lot longer than that, John.
It does. That was a memorable day to remember, Calvin. It was a day I'll never forget, and our great friend Gordy Little, who's just passed. We had such a tremendous day and tribute out there that day. It took you stayed out there with us for the whole 5.5 hours till we got it up, and I'll tell you, it was a great day for the history of the North Country and everybody else, the same as this is.
Bob, you're heavily involved in baseball. You played a little minor league, didn't you?
Yes, I played the Dodger chain. Yep.
Doesn't make him a bad person.
Couple places. Yeah, I played in the Pony League and the Wisconsin State League.
What years?
1952, 53.
Okay, so I'm thinking that's just a little bit after Padres broke in, or just...
yeah, I went spring training with him, and he was with Montreal at the time. Yeah.
Montreal Royals.
Yeah.
Didn't the Dodgers have 2 AAA teams at that time?
Yes, they did. I think they had the other was... I'm not sure. I know there was another one. I'm trying to think.
It'll pop into our heads.
It will, that happens to me now at this age.
Happened to me all my life.
Right. But, it was a nice experience. I had a chance to play with Maury Wills and John Rosaboro, and if just making it was just a joy, and it was good.
Yeah, you look back to that era, you were just a child back then, John, but, you look at, Don Zimmer came up through there, and I had a chance to talk to Don on one of his trips up to Montreal, and Tommy Lasorda played in Montreal, and Zimmer told me he used to come down to the OTB in Plattsburgh and meet up with Padres.
Sure. There were a couple, believe me. I had a chance to go down to spring training also, with the boys of summer. That was nice. And the two nicest guys were Pee Wee Reese and Roy Campanella. They spent some extra time talking to some of the younger ball players. The other guys sort of go home and weren't around too much, but those two guys were great.
And Campanella was right there, even after his accident. Every spring training, he was right there. His career was certainly cut short due to a tragic car accident. What years did you play with the CVBL, John?
I played we started playing in 1964, really, and we were still in high school. Mike and I were in high school when Everett and Elmer, we weren't even old enough to drive, and we started playing with Peru, and that's one thing that the memories that I'm very fond of is, one thing about Bob and Gary Butler, is we played against those guys, and then those guys coached us. In 1967, they coached our Legion team with Harry Demery, which was the first restart of the American Legion baseball, and Bob and Gary, fortunately, they were our coaches, and we had the great fun of playing against them, competing against them. So we've had quite a career with these guys, and they won. That's what I tell people. You wonder why we became such good ball players, because we'd play against them, then they'd coach us. So we had both sides of the fence, which was a great opportunity, and I'll cherish those memories for the rest of my life as far as that goes. Because and the same with Mike Bove. Mike Bove played with Katyville, and he was also our high school football, basketball, baseball coach in Peru. So we had quite a history of playing with and playing for all the great ball players that went through the North Country. So, and then in 1969, I went out of high school, and it was a year after high school that I went down to the St. Louis Cardinals with spring training, and then unfortunately my father got in a snowmobile accident, and I had to leave and came home, and the team was out of Modesto, California, so I didn't get a chance to leave with them. So, but at least I had the opportunity to get there.
They were looking at you.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I would have left with them, but I had to fly home from my father had passed because of the snowmobile accident. And I had to fly home for his funeral.
You lost your father.
Yes, yeah. And he started us playing ball, and I owe all my ball playing, career to what he did with us. He started us playing when we were only 6-7 years old, and we played right up on through. And of course, he followed our careers right up through high school with Peru and our Legion baseball, which I'm very proud of that. Our very first year in 1967, we went to the semifinals. We were only one game away from Cooperstown. Of course, we had some great ball players, as Bob can tell you, on that team with Harry Demery. We had Hal West and Dennis Reed, and we had just played Plattsburgh High School for the Section 7 championships, and luckily we beat them from Peru. It was a 3-2 ball game. We played them down behind the college, and that summer we all played on the Legion team, which made a great ball team, with the combined teams, and we did have a good team that year. So it was very memorable and fun.
They could have easily won. I mean, the competition days, you get up there, it's really tough. You make it, you're lucky. In a sense, you know. Now that team was a very good team. They had a lot of good players on it. In 1968, the next year, I also went to the quarterfinals in the state. 69 won the championship. 70 went to the semifinals of the state. So we had a stretch there. It was great,
So were you the head coach at that point?
Well, Gary, no, I was head coach. Gary didn't start until 68. 67, I was John's team, and then Gary's been with it a long time. Yeah, Gary Butler.
Okay.
Yeah, he stayed on, and he was there a lot longer than I was.
you played your high school days in Altona.
That's right.
So you have some good teams there, or what?
Well, high school we won three league winners in baseball, and we were 3 league winners in basketball. We won sectional, 2 sectionals, and in soccer we won the 4 years in the league.
Back then, though, soccer season, if you played 8 games, that was probably a lot.
That's right.
It just, it wasn't like now where you're playing.
Yeah, we played, and the sectionals weren't always there. We played 1 year sectionals against Elizabethtown, and we lost that one. But we won 2 sectional basketballs. And my senior year, we played Plattsburgh High School. We went from Class D to Class A.
Yeah.
And we got beat 1-0 in 8 innings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Altona wasn't a particularly big school.
No, it wasn't. Well, we just happened to have, every once in a while you get a group of young, good athletes. It doesn't happen very often in small schools. John knows that back in Peru. It was the same way until...
Getting back to Johnny Padres, I had the opportunity to talk to him about 16 years ago, and he mentioned playing against PHS in basketball, and just how he felt so good competing against those big schools with little Port Henry.
Those were good teams.
Yeah.
The first year that Johnny Padres came back, and we played Mineville in the town team baseball, and Johnny pitched against us the very first year after his retirement out of professional baseball. Johnny pitched that day down in Mineville, so we got. I mean, he didn't stay on the mound for. I think it was the 4th inning that he left because he was getting on up there in age, but at least we did get to hit off him and stuff. Yes, and play against him, which was quite a thrill and honor back in those days.
You didn't mind striking out against Johnny Padres?
No. Well, I got 2 hits off him, so I felt pretty good. Yeah.
That's probably why he left.
No.
This guy can hit me. I'm done.
Yeah, but we have over the years. I mean, we've had some great ball players that we've played against, and good friends of ours. But over there, John Ninehouse was I enjoyed playing with him so much. Of course, we went to school together in Peru and stuff, and then we played baseball. And like Gary Butler, that's what we were talking about, laughing. Gary, Gary started coming on helping around with Bob down with the Legion, but I'd catch him on Sundays and then have him coach us during the week or help coach us. So, that's the way things went back then. You played ball every chance you had back then.
Oh yeah.
It was nothing to play 6-7 days a week between the slow pitch softball, baseball, and throughout. And a lot of times we'd play on Thursday nights, in the CVBL at the old Bailey Avenue field, which was a beautiful ballpark. That was one of the best ballparks I think we ever had in the North Country.
And Bob, when you were a kid, you didn't need to have a group of parents organize a league for you. If you guys wanted to play ball, you got together and...
Yeah, you picked up, no matter how many kids you had, you formulated your game from the number of kids who were there.
Yeah. Whether it was 5-on-5 or whatever.
Yeah, you had to use your imagination. Kids don't have to anymore. Everything's set for them.
Yeah. Now we talked about losing Tom Kowalski, and I'm sure there's others that we've lost within the last year, but another name that comes to my mind is Bill Durnan.
Yes, oh yeah.
And I know he was a good friend of you.
Yes, he was.
Separating basketball and other things together. And,
one of my very close friends. We had so many times together and great times, and I admired him as not only a player but as a coach. He worked well with kids, did a lot. He was well respected. He had that sober look on him, but he was a kiddie. He was a kitten underneath that.
But
Great guy.
But Bill was one of the hardest guys to get a ball. He used to play third base when we'd play against him in Line Mountain, and he wasn't graceful, but he was one of the hardest guys to get a ball by. You couldn't get a ball by him at third base. He would dive, stop. He'd stop that ball one way or another, and make the play. He's very competitive, and there's another one. Bill used to umpire, and then we'd play against him. So we had great times in competition over back then. It was just you can't say enough words to express the feelings and joy that we had playing against these guys and letting them teach us as we came up through the years.
So even if you were playing against them, they were still teaching you.
Yes, they were. Yes, yeah. there was always something, and they'd walk by you, or if you'd get on base around them, and they'd make it nonchalant when they'd walk by, you shouldn't have done it that way, and then they'd keep on going, So they were always great friends and competitors, so it was a joy, like I said.
He always had a short something he would say that would really crack you up, We were in one game in Peru, I won't name the player, but he was knocked down with a pitch inside, and he fell down, he was crying, and Bill, he said, "Hey, get up and hit like a man."
Yeah. And Bill was one of the few umpires that we had some good umpires too, don't get me wrong, but Bill would call the curveball on the outside corner. He had played enough ball, he knew what baseball was all about, and if that pitcher could break one off in that front corner, Bill would call it. He wouldn't let it go like a lot of them did,
As long as an umpire is consistent.
Yes.
As long as both teams get that, whatever that call was, that's all you can ask.
And Bill was, And I think when Bill would umpire, now and then he'd have a few Line Mountain games, but those poor guys in Line Mountain, he actually made it rough on them umpiring.
Why not?
He'd turn the other way so that people wouldn't think he was impartial. It was a great time. So
I've got to tell my Bill Vernon story here. Used to help Jim Shutt coach after his coaching. He used to help Jim Shutt, and he'd always give me a scowl when he saw me. So after a couple of years, he came over and he says, "You know why I don't like you?" I have no idea. He says, back in 1960 or whatever, he says, Bob Garrow and I were refereeing basketball up in Champlain, and you wrote a letter to the editor about the referee. I counted it. I said, "I was 19 years old and you're still mad at me?" We always got along good.
But that's the kind of guys that have played in the CVBL, and another great ball player that has passed on with us, is no longer with us, is Gary Barber. Gary Barber he's a guy that I always enjoyed having on our team. You never knew. Well, every time he came to the plate, he was a threat. He'd hit the...
You might have moved out of the picture here, John. Don't move, Bob. Just stay where you are. He's the roamer. Let me double check. He wants to grab the... There we go. Okay.
But Gary was a great ball player and a threat to every team that we played. And I've seen some balls that hit unbelievable that man had hit. Him and Tommy Kowalski too. I've seen some balls that Tommy hit in Line Mountain that I was sitting there catching, and I think, are they ever going to land? Over that right field fence. And those guys though, they just brought so much to the game of baseball around the North Country that it was a great honor.
Yeah. When you play against somebody like that, it just makes you feel better.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a story with Bill, because maybe you've heard it before. There was a championship game between Peru and Line Mountain, and nobody wanted to umpire it. And they got after Bill, so finally he gave in and said, "Okay," because they felt he'd be very fair. It was a play. I don't recall what inning, but I think it was an ending game, an inning. And Gary Barber was at bat, and I don't know who was the guy who was on third base. They made an arrangement. Anyway, had a squeeze on him. Guy went to, Tommy stepped out to get the ball out of the box. Guy comes in and Bill says safe. So Tommy says to him, "What do you mean safe?" He said, "Well, step out of the box. It's a balk," or whatever he told him. And so Tommy said, "Well, we didn't do that where I was playing." He said, "Well, you're in the bush leagues now." Yeah. And after that, supposedly, and this is true, his wife and anybody in Line Mountain wouldn't talk to him for a long time.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that's the way baseball was in Line Mountain.
Religion. I was disappointed when I read the paper this week and saw that probably because Tommy had just died, that they couldn't field the team for the playoffs, so they had to forfeit. And that's, and this is coming off a year where they didn't have a team last year, and So it's unfortunate because, you know, part of the fun of CVBL is having a team in Lion Mountain.
Sure. Oh, yes, definitely.
Line Mountain and Katyville, I would say, were probably the two most competitive teams that I enjoyed playing against in the CVBL. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing against them all. But when Katyville could knock you off any time, whether you were on top or not. And Line Mountain, it was always, and going to Line Mountain was a special privilege and honor up there with the fans and everybody else up there. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a one-of-a-kind ballpark.
It was, yep.
Reminiscent a little bit maybe of Bailey Avenue, a little bit, but, you know, just amazing that, you know, the mine company built that for them.
And Sundays up there was like a holiday. The whole town came out, and it was nothing to see 400 or 500 people around that field. Easy, you know.
Well, if you look back at the, you know, old clippings and stuff, you know, in the 30s and so on, that's the way it used to be. Every town had a team, and if you had a Sunday afternoon ball game, the whole town would be there. So it lasted a lot longer in Lion Mountain than it did in the rest of the North Country.
The old saying is they stirred the soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did.
Well, they always had, there was the whole lineup, the whole 9 guys. You had all you could do to strike them out, no matter what kind of a pitcher you had, you know. So it was great fun, like I said. And the 2 guys that I want to give a lot of credit to is Everett Ezra and Elmer Dupree. When the CVBL folded up, they got together and they got the things that they had to do, and they got the league restarted again. Because there was a couple of years we didn't play, and they got the league restarted and got it rebuilt back to what it, you know, should be and what it really was. So.
I think they have, I know Lion Mountain was 7th, so I don't know, they must have had maybe at least 8 teams this year. I don't know what they had. Apparently still going pretty good.
I can remember Line Mountain had 2 teams at one time. You know,
Altona did.
Yes, Altona did. And Altona was a tough team to play. They were tough in that seat when Terry Burnell and those guys.
Terry Burnell never took sports serious. That was his only drawback.
Yep. I've seen Terry, oh my God, I've seen him come in and pinch hit, and he was coaching a team. And I saw him one time, and I was catching, and I looked down, and Terry's in the batter's box, and he's got his wingtips on. You know, he put the scorebook down because he was keeping score coaching, and he put the scorebook down. It was in the 8th inning, and there's Terry left-handed, and I looked down, and he's in batting with his wingtips. I'm thinking, well, this ought to be something, and he got a hit.
He was probably a few years behind you in school, Bob?
Yeah.
Well, he's certainly one of the legends of Altona. For a couple decades, you couldn't,
Sponsor basketball, anything you could do, you know.
yeah, you couldn't think of sports in Altona without mentioning the name Terry Burnell.
Yeah. It's true.
So people like that come around once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you got to give him. He started a little league program there, and he had that group of kids. And you know, they won 5 championships within that one period. They won 2 in the Northern League and 3 in the CVL. With that sort of made up of a few of the kids from Altona and with some outsiders, but you know, that was all his doing.
All right, our topic today is baseball. Anything else, guys, that you want to talk about here?
No.
There's a whole bunch of guys here you probably want to visit with besides standing here looking at the camera. All right, thank you very much, John Rock and Bob Garrow.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see John Nightingale's. I think he traveled the furthest distance. Welcome, John.
I didn't think you could do it without me.
We never could. Glad to see everyone here. First of all, Bess.
Hello, baseball players. There's enough here from Peru to start their own team, but I think if we all get together, we can have a game after. Anyway, good afternoon again, and before we start the program, I would like to read off the lost players that we lost this year, and please stand up for a moment of silence. Tom Kowalewski, Bill Durnan, Terry Ladd, John Williams, Joe Proctor, Len Duquette, and Leonard Welch.
Miss Bobby Pettifer.
Anybody else that we missed?
Bobby Pettifer. Bobby Pettifer.
Oh, Bobby Pettersson, okay. Anybody else? One moment silence, please. Thank you. I would like everybody here, excuse me, move Tom Kowalski. It was a beautiful, nothing beautiful about the obituary, but it was a nice written article. But I would like to add a couple of things on it with Tom. We were great friends. When Tom got signed, they had a game in Sable on a Sunday. The scouts were following Tom, and he hit 2 home runs on a Sunday afternoon. Sunday night, we had another game in Bailey Avenue. And of course, the 2 scouts at the time followed him to Bailey Avenue. And Tom hit 2 more home runs. So he hit 4 home runs that Sunday. And on Monday morning, he got signed $500 bonus. It was pretty special because in 2 years' time, Tom was playing for the New York Yankee Farm Club, and my own brother-in-law for the Philadelphia Phillies, Marshall Dubray. Marshall was signed by Dewey Dredge, which was a scout for the Philadelphia Phillies at the time. Marshall only lasted a couple of years. But Tom, it didn't have it in an obituary. He played with Roy White, same team, Mel Stottlemyre. In his very first game in Class A ball, Tom faced Louis Keon, and he got 2 doubles. So that's a little extra, but having 2 ball players that made the minor leagues in a small town, I'm pretty proud of that. And you know me, I know a lot of little trivia. Tom showed me his roster, 1962, I believe. They had catchers, Yogi Berra, Elston Howard, Johnny Blanchard, Jake Gibbs, Thomas Kowalski. The reason he kept Jake Gibbs is he signed for $100,000. In those days, $100,000 was pretty good money. But Jake Gibbs, the reason he brought him up, not only because of the money, he was hitting pretty good, but his lifetime stats in 10 years, 233 batting average, 25 home runs. That was his stats for 10 years of Yankee ball. And then a little stat too, I like to put it out there, we're talking about home runs. I don't know how many of you guys here like Barry Bonds. He ate spinach before he batted. That's why he hit 755. I don't, in my vocabulary, I don't mention Barry Bonds for that reason. Hank Aaron is your champion. Babe Ruth is my idol, but I'll give you one big stat. Hank Aaron batted 12,000 times. Babe Ruth batted 8,000 times. So 500 times at bat average. Hank Aaron played 8 more years than Babe Ruth. So Babe Ruth is actually the big champion. And another guy, Lou Gehrig. I'll just read off what he did in 13 years. His runs batted in. 107, this is per year, 154 games. 107, 175, 142, 126, 174, 184, which is a major league record, 151, 139, 165, 119, 152, 159, in his last year because he had the disease, 114. And you'll probably be interested in this, you know, we have over 300 American ball players to go over to Japan and play ball. Some made out good, some only lasted a year or two. But a study was made a couple of years ago. What Japanese managers do in Japan, they conduct spring training like a boot camp, like a Marine boot camp. You overwork all the pitchers. That's why I think when the Japanese pitchers come over here, they all got sore arms. And the bench players, bench the players during a game, if they commit an error or strike out, they take them right out of the game. The Japanese players, in the meantime, they do 30 minutes of batting practice every day, 7 days a week. They don't miss a sign. They don't dive for fly balls. They don't break up double plays. They don't block the plate. They don't chew tobacco. And they carry their own bags and they shine their own shoes. Here's what the Japanese players think of us, our players. We're overpaid, we're stuck up and out of shape. They don't work hard, we don't follow orders, we play dirty, we bait the umpires, they're quick to punch an opponent, they don't like American food, Japanese food, they won't learn the language, and they won't shine their own shoes. So I thought I'd bring that up. Have a good time, boys.
Turn it over to Bob Garrell.
Well, it's nice to have you all back again. I hope you're having a good time. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in talking about the Junior American Legion programs. Some of you here tonight or this afternoon have played the Junior American Legion program. It's been a terrific program. As you know, we just won the district, and we've had great success down through the years. I would say district championships, we had more than any of the other teams in the district. I couldn't give you the number now because I haven't really gotten into research that far. I want to talk about a unique team. I was doing the study and we started the second phase of Junior American Legion Baseball in 1967, and consecutively we played for 49 years. And I was sitting there and I recognized that maybe, hey, this is the 50th anniversary. We needed another team. Well, we had another team, and it was a unique team. Probably don't remember this. You remember John Flynn, I'm sure most of you do. John was the kind of guy who always extended himself with his kids from high school ball, or even if he knew an individual that wasn't on his team, he always tried to do something for him. I know that some of the guys here have gained for themselves from the help of John. Well, anyhow, this was a very unique team. It was 1949. John, with the auspices of E.S. Mason, it's a car dealership, decided he wanted to enter the playoffs. I'm not sure, I'm going to let a couple of guys here talk a little bit about the playoffs and what happened that year. But anyway, going back to it, it was a high school team. And the only other players that he had was Don Pulaski and Roger Quinn from Dannemora. Well, anyway, we went through the process of the playoffs and got to the semifinals and lost in the semifinals. But that's very unique. A high school team going into the playoffs and winning, or at least getting to the semifinals. I'm just going to go quickly name the players on that team because I think some of you might have known them or are related. So Jack Noon, Jim Fagan, and I guess you just told me that Jim Fagan is still alive. You know where he's living, Jim? You don't know where he's living?
He's in Connecticut somewhere.
Okay. Earl Balshaw, Hank Squires, Don Pulaski, Dave Champagne, Gary O'Leary, Tom Anderson, Bob Morrison, Bob Thornton, Bob Penfield, and Roger Quinn. And last year, we have two of the remaining players who were on that team. And the only one, the other person that we know is still alive or around, and that is Jim Fagan. So I'm going to ask Jim Sears and Norm Bocha to share a few words. I don't know, I think you all know these two guys have been very strong in the sports field, but I'll just mention Jim, who I'm sorry didn't play a lot of baseball because he would have been a very good baseball player. Started out, he played 2 years at Plattsburgh State, and he was a very important part of this team. Norm, I think most of you, or a lot of you played against Norm. He played the CVBL a number of years and also was a 2-year catcher, varsity catcher, starting catcher at Brockville. So I'm going to flip the coin here. Who wants to speak first? Norm?
It's funny when you get thinking about back then, you wonder how many people really know about 1949. And anyways, it just brings back a lot of memories. And we were fortunate that ES Mason sponsored us. Actually, they sponsored a town team the year before in '48, but then in '49, John Flynn decided to take the high school guys and they qualified age-wise into the Junior American Legion. So we did quite well. We were undefeated up in the North Country. There were several teams involved around, and we won the regional at Syracuse and the regional at Albany, and we ended up going to the semifinals at White Plains. And we were really fortunate in that Plattsburgh, the city of Plattsburgh really supported that team. There were a lot of donations from just about every business in town. Many individuals donated. We ended up taking the train to New York City. For most of us, it was the first time we'd been on the train. We got down there, and we took a bus from New York to White Plains, not very far. And we got to White Plains, and our reservation was all fouled up. We were supposed to stay at this hotel in downtown White Plains, and we ended up not playing it. I could see Noon's father, Frank Noon. He went in to check it out, and he came out, and he was really upset. So what they do? We're in 100-degree weather down in the city, in that area. They put all of us in the YMCA gymnasium on cots. Each had a cot. That's where we spent that night before the game. And we always felt as though, geez, maybe we could have done better under different circumstances. Our pitcher, Jim Fagan, got up in the morning with a stiff neck, and that's the way he pitched. Anyways, the next day, we went out to the field there in White Plains. Martin Mannix, newscaster for Wiry, broadcast that game. And he announced that it was 107 degrees on the field. This is really something. Let's see. We got the game going. And I don't know, we had a tough time with Jimmy DiPaolo. He was the pitcher for White Plains, and he's the kid that ended up getting signed by the Yankees. He never really made it to the Yankees, but he played a lot of AAA ball, and he was a good pitcher. The one fella on that team that impressed me, and I ended up following him a little bit, was their catcher. And I guess if I were to ask the question, what African American was first honored by the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown? I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, it must have been Jackie Robinson or something. I'm not talking about the Hall of Fame. Grover Jones, the catcher for White Plains. I got to tell you what happened and why that happened. He played a Junior American Legion ball in 49, and then, let's see, 49, and then 50, and then his last year in Junior American Legion ball was in 51. White Plains went all the way through the regionals in the country and ended up at the finals in Detroit at Briggs Stadium. And this Grover Jones, what they do is they have a tournament a lot like the College World Series. They come 6 teams. Anyways, White Plains got down to the very last game of the tournament with a California team. Hard to believe, but Sparky Anderson was the shortstop for that California team. California team had won 3 national championships, 2, and then this was going to be the 3rd. They won that year, 3rd national champion. Quite a feat. Anyways, they chose Grover Jones, who was on the losing team in the end, as the most valuable player. In that tournament, he had 20 hits, 20 RBIs, and he batted .408. And what happens every year at the national champion tournament, the MVP of that tournament ends up at Cooperstown with a plaque. And his plaque went there for the next calendar year, and that's where he was. Well, he had quite a career. I don't know if any of you, have you ever heard of a baseball player named Deacon Jones? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is Deacon Jones. When he got into the minor leagues, they found out his father was a deacon for the Baptist church, and they called him Deacon for the next, he's still alive as far as I know. He's always been Deacon Jones. Some people confuse him with, I think there was a football player for the Rams, Deacon Jones. Yeah, well, it's not him. It's this baseball player. Well, I couldn't help but follow this guy because when I played at Brockport, we played Ithaca, and when we went down there, lo and behold, I saw Grover Jones, the same guy I'd seen in White Plains. He was playing for them. He had a football scholarship to Ithaca, but you know, he didn't like football for one reason. He says, all you do is practice. He said, I can't do that. He said, I want to play something where I'm playing every day. And he ended up playing baseball, and he was a very good baseball player. And he was 11 years in the minor leagues. He signed by the White Sox, and he was 11 years in the minor leagues, and he batted over 300 totally. He went up to the White Sox 3 different seasons for a while, and it was very hard in the 50s to break into the major leagues. Starting teams were starting teams, and I'm sure you remember that. And he couldn't break in. He did fairly well, but he ended up going back to the minor leagues, and after that, he became a hitting coach and a scout. And he's actually a scout right up until 2007. He was a scout for the Baltimore Orioles. Well, I won't dwell anymore on that, but getting back, let's see, I think I mentioned all I wanted to say about that game. And it's interesting that, I guess, there weren't going to be enough boys in 1950 to qualify for Junior American Legion, and it just kind of fell flat. It just didn't happen again. And it's hard to believe that all those years went by and we didn't have another team until 67. But that's what happened. And I don't know, Jim, I'm sure you always remember what we did. So go ahead.
I'm a Dannemora boy, and you probably wonder how I ended up at St. John's. Well, up in Dannemora, we have a good-sized prison, and it has posts on it. And John Flynn had post 1. Post 1 is right across the street from King's Tavern. And the town put up a basketball court on the town hall, and John Flynn could see from his post who the ball players were in Dannemora because we were always up there playing basketball. And somehow he got to my parents, and I ended up at St. John's in 1946. But John Flynn had I'll speak more about him because Norm didn't say too much about his father-in-law, but he was, he was, to me, one of a real great coach, and I know this area has had a lot of great coaches, but he took us right from the start, and he was a good disciplinarian, and he knew his game. He was on top of his game all the way. But one other thing that happened that I'll always remember and be thankful for is I came from a poor family, and there was no college in the making for me after high school. And what John did, I was down in Spoon Lake working, and my plan was to go in the service after I finished my summer work at a restaurant down there. While I was there, he went to see my parents and convinced them to enroll me in Plattsburgh State. And I received the medical form to get an exam, and ended up at Plattsburgh State. If it hadn't been for John intervening, I would have ended up in Korea, because the day I graduated from high school, the Korean War started. That was June 21st, 1950. So I told Norm this, and I told all of John's family members what he meant to me. Some of the fellows, but there aren't many of us left, but I don't know, you probably know a lot of these fellows. The only survivors that we know of is Jim Fagan, myself, Norm, and I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. We don't know about Bob Thornton. He was in the Marines and Korea and lost an elbow, shot away, and the rest of them, out of the group, there are only 3 of us surviving. But it was a great time. We were taught well. And the funny thing is, a lot of the times that when we had games, we were recruited to go out and get the field ready because no one else would do it for us. And that's the way things were back then, and it was good. And those of us who were in high school at the time probably hadn't seen much of the state. So we traveled, and all the places we went to Fonda and Schenectady, Albany, Syracuse, and White Plains. And had a great deal of success until we hit White Plains. And when you mentioned Jimmy DiPaolo, I don't think I've ever seen a curveball like the curveball he had. Johnny Padres had a good one. Never could hit him either. And Pickles had a good curveball. But it just was a great time. I have pictures up here if you want to see the people we've been talking about. It's a great memory to have with that type of experience, and I'll always be grateful for it.
Thanks, Norm. Thanks, Jed. Probably you want to ask Harold to say a few words.
We start the lunch with Norm, Bob. Start the lunch line.
Good. Go ahead. If you want to see the pictures we have, I'll just put
About the entrance, we had the 49 that joined, and then we had a long term between 49 and 67, but it was interesting. The teams that entered for the second time had a great deal of success. We had 4 years where, 1967, I think John Rock was on that team, and I don't know who else. John?
Mike. From Peru, there was myself, Barney Woodward, Randy Matthews, Billy Giroux from Peru, and then from Plattsburgh High we had Hal West, Dennis Reed, Wayne Duquette played from MAI, Johnny Flynn, John Carpenter,
Mike Flynn.
or Mike Flynn.
Tom Hurley.
Yes, Mike Flynn, yes. Tom Hurley. Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe played with us. And Lenny Duquette.
Sam Campbell.
Sam Campbell. No, Sam came the following year.
Okay.
He didn't play on that first year.
Dennis Reed.
Yeah, Dennis Reed, Hal West, yeah.
Anyway, that team got into the state
Semifinals.
playoffs.
Semifinals, yeah. We went all-
1968, the team got into the state playoffs. 1969, we won the state championship. In 1970, we went to the semifinals. There was a stretch of 4 years there, going back into the Legion programs that our area did real well. Now, we wouldn't have had American Legion baseball if we had not had two people who one spent a great deal of his life, the other is still doing it. We all remember Harry Demery. He spent a lot of his own money. I remember, I don't know how much he paid for it, bought a bus, dressed it up because he had a shop, and worked very hard. He pretty much was a lone person, the lone ranger and working with the program at that time. He was very fortunate for a number of years to having Gary Butler, who stayed with the program for a long time and certainly was a great help and a great teacher for Harry. So along came a guy named Harold Leclerc. And believe me, he has done a tremendous job. He formalized the program where he's created a lot of the communication with the players, future, past players. He's provided publicity for the team. I can't go into all the things. He's probably going to share all of that with you. But anyhow, he's done a tremendous job. And we're at a point now where we have 3 levels of Junior American Legion players. As you know, we probably have been reading the papers and they're all doing real well. Last year, again, it did real well. So we're very fortunate to have these 2 people who kept the American Legion program, the Junior American Legion program, going for a number of years. Actually, as I indicated before, it's our 50th anniversary. Okay. Eric?
I promise I'll keep this short. When Bob called me up and asked me to do a little presentation, I was thrilled. Beyond belief. I know as a true baseball player, we all love stats. Bob touched a little earlier about the number of district championships that we've had. As of this year, we've had 23. This is since 1967. I got heavily involved in this program in 2002. 2004, I actually took over the entire program. I spent a couple of years ago probably every Saturday at the public library doing research on American Legion baseball in Plattsburgh. Going back to 67, I've accumulated what I believe is every player that ever played in this program. And over the years, I've tried to collect team pictures of everybody that's played. I do have the 69 team championship photos. I'm still searching for a lot of them, but a lot of them that are in the recent 15 to 20 years, I've got most of them. If anybody here knows of players that have them in the 70s, 80s, please have them get in touch with me, and I can add the team pictures to this book. It also has a list of every player. Like I say, I believe I've got everyone that's ever gone through this organization. 7 years ago, I started the Clinton County Mariners Baseball Association. We have grown to about 160 people right now. 5 years ago, we took it a step further and we started a Hall of Fame. I also have the players' names and pictures of everybody that's been in the Hall of Fame. And the first year was the 3 coaches that actually got this thing going. Harry Demery, Gary Butler, and Bob Giro. And I'm trying to keep that going through up until this year and through the future. I've also done some research on team records. I believe they're, I'm going to say 99% accurate. Over the years since '67, we have, like I say, we've had 23 district championships. Both the junior program and the senior program have just won their district championships this year, and it's the 4th year in a row. So they're having a pretty successful campaign. To date, our total team record is 1,229 wins, 600 losses, 13 ties. I will leave this with Bob. I know he likes to save stats. I've also gone back and with the help of Chris Dory and others, Gary Butler, I actually started trying to get stats for batting average, pitching wins, hits, runs, stuff like that. And I've also accumulated that over the last 20 years or so. I don't have a lot that goes back prior to I'm going to say probably 85 is the furthest back that I have stats for. But I'll also leave this with Bob. I guess the big thing that the kids like is stealing bases. The record for 1 year is 32, and every year the kids are gunning for it. Right now on the senior team, I got 2 kids that are tied at 26, and they are having an internal competition to see who can break the record. So hopefully between this week's games and next week's dates, one of those guys is going to break the record. Andrew Bayshard from Plattsburgh and Stephen Perrier from Northern Adirondack are 2 that are running. The thing that turned the table with me on this, I was coaching in 2004, and we had just lost a game in Messina in the district. And after the game, a parent came up to me and looked me right in the face and said, "Gee, it's too bad. Within 5 years, baseball in Clinton County is going to be gone." And I took that to heart, and I thought about it all the way home. And I called up my uncle, Warren Manor, who was the district chairman, and I told him that I'm resigning as coach. He got all upset. And I told him I don't want to coach anymore. I want to run the program. I want to make sure American Legion Baseball stays alive in New York State. When I took over in 2004, there was 275 teams. This year there's 89. This is on the senior level. They've lost a lot of programs, and a lot of them are going independent baseball. They're going Connie Mac, and they're also joining travel leagues. We've lost a lot of kids to it, and we're not going to let that happen in Clinton County. And a big portion of it is because of people like the people that are here supporting this program, and the posts in this county have really stepped up and helped us. As long as I'm alive, this program is going to stay here, and hopefully one of these days we'll bring home a state title. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. Thanks, Jim, Nard, Bob. John Rock is going to tell us on an update on the Wall of Honor. John, after you've finished, start the mic around with each individual ball player, and they'll tell us a little bit about themselves.
Okay, well, I don't know if a lot of you heard the last year about the Wall of Honor. We're trying to get a spot up here at the Legion, and the inside walls are all filled up, so I said to Mike the other day, why don't we just build an outdoor display? Either put it on the back porch wall, or we have facilities over here behind, we can put it behind the backstop, or on the garage wall. So they kind of like that idea, so I don't know if we'll have much progress much before they restart their meetings in September, but as of right now, that's going to be our plan, to put our Wall of Honor up with with the names of the teams and everything throughout the CVBL. And put them on display so they'll be permanently displayed. So all we're doing is waiting for the Legion to start their meetings to approve everything, and they'll foot most of the bill for the, or probably just about all of it, as far as the materials to build the Wall of Honor. So before I go on very long, Al Thompson's got a little plaque here he'd like to share with us on about how he acquired it.
It's hard to believe, but 41 years ago, the miners at our annual end of the year banquet presented me with this plaque. And there was a reason behind it. It's going to bring a chuckle out of you guys, I'm sure. In recognition for your dedicated service, we appreciated all you have done. And under that is a comment, no beer, no ball. Line Mountain Miners, 1975 CVBL champions. And the reason for that was in 1975, we started 0-5. And you guys all know, you old timers, the practice was, I always bought the team 2 cases of beer and the other visiting team 1 or 2 cases. So when we were 0-5, I said, that's it. You guys are not getting another case of beer until you win a game. We never lost the game after that. And we beat Peru in a heck of a championship series that year right there. So, but the boys got that, and we've had some awful great times, and that was one of them right there. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Al. I'd like to send out some special thanks to 2 guys in here that don't get much recognition when at all this stuff is. Everett Ezero and Elmer Dupree are the 2 that helped bring the CVBL back to life after this 2 years absence. So I would just like to show a little bit of appreciation for those guys, and they've worked hard ever since. Yeah. Everett? Harold, I want to thank you for continuing on in this Legion baseball program. I know when it got restarted in 1967, it was a real honor and privilege for us to go play on it. And as you can see in the paper, the stats just keep piling them up, and you've got a great program started with the juniors and right on down through. So continue the good work. Thank you.
I just remembered a little story I'd like to share about Legion baseball. 1969 was the year when we took the state championship, and this concerns Joe Staves. Joe was working at the mill where Billy Flynn and I were working, and he had a summer job, and they put him on afternoons, so Bill and I flew around the schedule for a couple, 3 weeks, so we could work days and play ball at night. And it caught up to Bill and I. We almost got fired. But it was worth it. They took the state championship.
Thanks, John. It was a great update. We'll be starting our go-around. Each player introduce himself and give you a little bit of his career. John?
John Saran. I started actually in 1971, 72, 73 playing for American Legion. And 2 of my coaches are here today, Coach Butler and Coach Carroll. And Harry Demery was our head coach. But that was a great time. I was 16, 17, and 18, and we're all still here. So that's really good. I went from Legion to Peru, and I played at Peru Russet for 73 to 74. Well, I'll win. It's a little blurry. But we did win 3 championships during that time. I sat the first year behind Mike St. Louis, Lou Cody, and Steve Laurie. And I just paid my dues. And then those guys disappeared, and me and Mike always wanted to pitch the second game. I was very happy to pitch the first game. And we did that for a year. We got championships. I played with a lot of really good guys. And then I went from Peru, got married, went to Arizona, came back, played for my brother up in Saranac Lake for a year with Club 86, and went to the prison from there and came when I was down at the prison, I called Timmy Snow. I said, you know, I'm going to be getting a house in Osable Forks, and it's time I play for you guys, if you want me. And I went to Osable, and I played for Timmy for a couple years. I ended up going back to Peru.
Where else to go? More money.
And then I was back and forth. And then I went back to Osable and finished out my career at Osable. And the older I was getting, and the old elbow just wasn't taking it anymore. But all the players that I played with along the way, it was awesome. You know, every team, we were good in Saranac Lake. We were 20-0 at Saranac Lake, and went down to Osable to play after our home game got rained out. And my brother decided, well, we'll go to Osable and play. Well, that was a dumb mistake, because we got beat twice in Osable. But it's our home game. I don't care. We got beat twice down in Osable. So it was all good. I played with a lot of good guys. I played against a lot of good guys. Being a pitcher, I had one thing I shared on Facebook last night with Tommy's article, is that Tommy and Donnie Dupree brought this up today, and I just typed it last night verbatim. I was 21 years old. Tommy was 33 years old. He'd already been done his Yankee thing, and he was kind of getting done CVBL at that time too, at 33, 34. And he was screaming at me from home plate, throw me a fastball, just throw the fastball. And I yelled back in, I said, when you learn to hit the curveball, I'll throw you a fastball. and Donnie remembered him saying that because he was standing right next to him. But and that's Tommy was a great player, and Glenn Petru, and I can go on and on. I shouldn't even do names because there was way too many, and we had a lot of fun. We never had trouble after a game. We played our hearts out on the field and left the field like that. So that's my story. Ned Hoy.
Hi, Ned Hoy, Osable Fork Spirits. I played, I coached, and I managed. And John, I guess you didn't notice when you played us down in from Saranac Lake.
I didn't know.
The balls were slippery when you threw. They were dried out when we. Bob Hay had something to do with that, doesn't he?
Elmer Dupree, most everybody here knows me. I own the Rustic and really sponsored the town team and group for a good many years. And I've been playing for a good many years. I didn't think quite so long, but in the paper the other day, what was it, 60 years? 50 years ago, I had to triple and go home, and your uncle was the pitcher that day.
I saw that, Elmer.
Yeah.
Donnie Dupree. I'm going to look to Johnny Reinhardt speaking right now. Go ahead, Johnny.
My friends call me John. And guys that played for me call me Coach.
Coach, I forgot.
Seriously, really don't have much to say about myself because most of the people in here have an opinion about me one way or the other. So I want to talk about Lion Mountain. Okay? And I noticed that Al took off because he knew I was going to get up and he wanted to get out of here before I got started. But I'm going to tell you a secret right now. We never lost to Lion Mountain. Peru never lost to Lion Mountain. We just ran out of time.
Well, you do fall on your head?
When we went there, it wasn't baseball, it was war. We got hounded from the stands, we got hounded from the kids behind the bench, we got hounded from everybody, all right? But it was war, and I'm going to tell you a little story. I decided that it would be a story rather than a fact, like my opinion of us beating them every time. But there was a guy named Mike Perry who was a pitcher. All right? And he went to Saranac when I was there, and I was coaching there. And Elmer got up and he got a walk. Scooter Drew got up, everybody knows Scooter. Scooter Drew got up and hit a home run. Elmer had 2-0. All right?
Now, everybody knows, anybody who knows anything about baseball knows one thing. The next guy's gonna get hit, okay? And I was the next guy in line. Okay? First pitch, boom! Second pitch, boom! And I kept edging over just to egg him on, you know. And he threw another one right by my head. I don't know how fast he threw because we never had guns in those days, but I'll tell you what, it was over 90 miles an hour. All right, it was 3-0. He still hadn't hit me. But I tell you what, if you want to hit somebody, what do? You throw it behind him. And I backed up. And when I did, he hit me. And I went down. And everybody came running out and everything. And I said, if you think I'm going to give that son of a bitch a satisfaction of showing him that I'm hurt, you're crazy. And I got up and I went to first base. Gary Barber came up, hit another home run. We're ahead 4-0. We're ahead 4-0. Now, fast forward to last summer. I go into the butcher block. Bert Amell is in there. Leo Perry's in there. You know who Leo Perry is? His father. His father. Okay? And here comes Mr. Smartass, okay, with his mother and his kids and his sister and everybody else. And I looked over and I walked over and said, Bert, how you doing? He said, good, I'm doing good, John. You look good. I'm down in St. Petersburg. You're over near Orlando. Yeah, but we talked back and forth. And then he introduced me to Leo Perry. Well, Leo Perry hired me to teach and coach at Saranac when I got out of college for a year. He was the president of the board. He said, I don't recognize him. That's what Leo Perry said to me. I said, let me ask you a question. And I pulled up my back of my shirt and I said, you see that? On my back it says Rollins, Forsythe, okay? Well, that's your son, and now I know who it is. So we started laughing, we had a good time, okay? That's the way it is. You talk about people, you talk about baseball, this is social life. I feel good when I come into this group because I know most of the people here. And that's the way life is. Now, one other thing. You see Bulldog sitting here. After one of the games at Peru 1 up in Lime Mountain, okay? We go over to the Legion, okay? Al's not telling the truth about those 2 cases of beer. He bought 2 cases of beer for Lime Mountain, but he never gave us any beer. He gave us goat's milk, okay? So I go in, and Bulldog is sitting there, and God rest his soul, Tommy Kowalski, and a guy named Carly Rounds. You remember Carly Rounds? Carly Rounds is sitting over there. Carly Rounds, a Bulldog stands up. He's a smartass, right? He's still there. He stands up and says, I'm the best player that ever played for the Mine Mountain Miners. I'm the very best player. I can hit, I can run, I can play any position. I'm the best. Tommy Kowalski looks at him and he said, I'm the best. That's all he said was, I'm the best. And then I said, what makes you think you're the best, Tommy? He said, because God told me. God told me. And he said, yeah. This is a true story, right? Hold on. He said, God told me. Carly Rounds looked up and said, Tommy, I never said that. Anyway, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having this for me, especially when I was coming up, because Everett called me, and he said, we're going to throw a little dirt around, and we're going to throw out some filings from, the base paths up in Lime Mountain. But I appreciate the great meal. I appreciate the great camaraderie, and thank you very much.
That's a tough act to follow. I'm Eric Dupree, and I started in the 70s and played through the 80s. And I'm going to make this real short. I really miss those trips to Lime Mountain and off Sable. And I don't remember a goddamn one of them coming home.
Name is Doug Romback. I played with Peru back in the 80s. And I have a lot of fond memories, and there's a lot more memories still in there that I probably can't get out, but it was probably the funnest time, one of the funnest times of my life playing in this league. Every day, every game there was something crazy or stupid, or it was just hilarious. But my fondest memory, I don't know, had a lot of them, but got a chance to play with a lot of great baseball players. And I thought I was a good baseball player because they batted me third in front of Gary Barber, but after the first couple of times getting on first base and almost getting killed by him, I knew why I was batting third. Nobody else wanted to. But, it was a great time, great people. Just always loved how everybody could yell and holler and scream and swear at each other and almost come to fisticuffs during the game. And everybody just like best friends in the bar afterwards. I mean, it was just such a camaraderie, and just something I'll remember the rest of my life.
My name's Bernie Stewart. I'm one of the umpires. And fortunately, I survived all those Peru and Lion Mountain games. But there were a good many times when we had to leave Lion Mountain in order to get a beer. We didn't dare stay there.
I'm Pete Keenan. I did spend 4 or 5 years playing, and then probably 40, 45 umpires. And I could tell a lot of stories about, including, I guess it would be, Tomowaki in mind, about the first game that you played when you came back to organized ball, and played in Chernobyl, which they played behind the hotel. The first inning, Tommy was number 3 hitter. He hit over third base, had a fair ball, come back and said, "You better open your eyes." I said, "So are my ears with Dave." and then it just escalated when we went back to Line Mountain after that. Anytime that I show up to umpire, there was no school in the bandstand, so what inning I was going to throw them off. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. We just pulled a lot of glasses. Here's true. Didn't pop up. It said idle too long, it didn't pop up. I just happened to think of that.
Tommy said that too.
10 years. Yeah.
In the middle.
And I'll move that along to Jared.
I played 2 years with Plattsburgh Falcons with Bob Carroll, and then moved on to Peru when Falcons no longer had a team. And the 2 years I played with Peru, I want to give Everett a lot of credit. We're banning a bunch of guys, a lot of Peru guys, a couple guys from the city, and he was a good recruiter, kept everybody happy, nobody pissed him off. Good parties after, and it was a great 2 years. I remember we had a party down in Keysville after winning the championship that 1 year, and I think John Rock and Barney Wood were walking down Route 9 with their underwear on after.
Didn't even have that on.
Remember, kind of got this going together, I think 3 years ago, he called me for a meeting, and a bunch of guys talking about the Wall of Fame and what we do for the league to honor the people that play. And this is where we are. And Bob and all the work he's done with it, research of American Legion Baseball and the CVBL and the Adirondack League with pictures and stories, and many of you guys are in that. And I mean, this has taken a lot of work, and to put this history together, and I think we all enjoy it. And the job that Harold is doing, running the Mariners program, obviously it's one of the best in the state. And I'm glad I caught him well when he was my JV pitcher. He's still doing great things. It's a fun day.
My name is Fuzzy Facette. I wasn't a baseball player. I did play for high school ball for Archie Toloski, who was at St. John's at the time. He coached everything there, baseball, basketball, and football. Thinking of one thought while it's in my mind, Jim was talking about how John Flynn used to recruit players from the wall at Dannemora. Well, we have stories at St. John's through the years where Barry Brandon and I, when I was an assistant, we used to get together and we would go scout in the summer times in the summer leagues and find out what players are the best, and we try to make friends with their family and their parents and them. See if we could get a few players to come down to St. John's. Here's one story though that really sticks in my mind. When I was umpiring, I don't remember what year, Pickles Pulaski was at the plate, and Pickles could never hit a curveball. So he kept saying, that's not a strike. I said, it is a strike. I said, well, next time, Pick, you get that ball here, it's a strike. I said, you swing at it, and if you get the home run, no matter where it goes, I'll call it a home run. So we got the ball and hit the ball in the right field. I said, only one thing matters, Pickles. You got to send Matt down to St. John's. And guess what? Pickles got a home run, and Matt came to St. John's. Not only Matt, we had David Benjamin, Skavich, and Steve Rawlich. So we had some good players out in the Line Mountain area, and we did recruit a few out of Dannemora, one by the name of Harry Canning, Kuchar, several others. So we're small. We only had like 20 boys in our system. But we had to get boys in there that, that we knew were athletes. So that's the way it went in those days. We were never accused of it legally. Everybody kind of knew it. We tried to get guys out of Peru, but Tony Papro had his hooks into Peru, and he kept everybody into Peru. Which we can't say we didn't try, because we tried. One guy we didn't want to get out of Peru was, what was your name? John Nyhouse. As it turned out, through the years, John and I used to sit on the basketball bench coaching each other. And it got so bad at times, they had to put buckles on the bench to keep us on the bench. Referees loved us for that. But one thing, don't forget, fellas, all your baseball players are the true baseball players. I wasn't a baseball player, but if you didn't have umpires like you had, you guys would have been fighting amongst yourselves. Thank you very much.
Tim Snow, also aboard. I played in the 50s, into the 60s, and then we'll sort of went to fast pitch softball. We started up the Spirits in 1974, Paul Savage and myself, and we were pretty successful at times. Glad everybody recognizes Elmer for the great job that he's done. There was a lot of Sunday afternoons that I didn't think Elmer was a very nice guy. Most teams with a losing streak, you get beat 4 or 5 games. We won 4 or 5 games in a row. We lost 4 or 5 games in a row. Well, it took us 6 years to beat Elmer. So that was a hell of a lot longer than 4 or 5 games. In fact, he was one of the reasons why we changed the team. The first year we were in the league, that's when Cincinnati had the big red machine, they called them. They were a great baseball team. So I said, well, we had nice red jerseys and everything. We'll call ourselves the big red machine. So Peru came to us, and I'm standing out in left field about the 7th inning, and the announcer says, the score is Peru 16, the big red machine 2. I said, I think we'll change the name of that. And that's why we became the Spirits. Anyway, it was just a great year. Another Elmer story. The first game the Spirits ever played, which was that game, we got hammered. And the last game I coached in Peru, we got hammered at. And I said, I've had enough of this stuff. And after 11 years, I said, I hung it up. But they were great years, and it's so nice to see everybody. I bring back a lot of great memories, a lot of fun.
Hi, John. Ron Chase, Lyman Miners. I'm now an umpire. Try to umpire. Very good to Miners. I used to play for Katyville Town team. Larry Stewart, Bugsy Favreau, and I played hard-nosed baseball when I played. And I never said that I was the greatest in my mountain job. So you must have been smoking some wacky that I did. Well, anyways, it's good to see you guys here.
That didn't happen before you went to the Legion. That hadn't actually been the Legion for like 5 hours.
Oh, then I probably did say that. But it's nice to see you, all you gentlemen here, and especially this man right here. He used to be my idol right here. As far as umpires, he's the greatest. Pete, all you guys, I want to say thank you for having me here, and have a good summer.
I'm John Rott. I played with Peru, softball. I played all over and back in my day, Legion ball, which I'm grateful to doing that with. But I'm going to tell you one thing. One of the greatest guys I ever played with was John Ninehouse. Not only did he harass the other team, well, I'm telling you, I would not want him against me when we played, because he always had the other team in turmoil. One other thing I want to mention, Pete, is when we used to go to Line Mountain, remember the miners that always say, look at, you need glasses? Look at, Pete moved on in years, he still don't wear glasses, so that goes to show you what those people in Line Mountain know. No, I had a great time over the years playing ball, and it's like we were talking earlier, Bob coached me, Gary coached me in Legion ball, and over the years, that's what I said, we had the chance to play with, against, for, and around just about everybody in the North Country. And all you guys, I enjoyed playing ball with you, and I hope to see you again next year, everybody. Thank you.
Mike Downs. I started playing ball for all-time Elmer did. He died in the late 50s. And I guess I continued through to about 65. I don't know, I was just getting through college. And at one time or another, I probably played ball with everybody here in this room. And a lot of good memories. A lot of the guys here are a little bit older than me, Jim, Bob, Warren, but I remember these guys, a bunch of great athletes here, and it was an honor to be here, and thank you.
I'm Walter McGee. I spent playing ball for Peru in the 50s and 60s, and I joined the military. I spent 28 years in the military. While in the military, I took up umpiring. I umpired tournaments all over the world. And 3 years ago, I went to go to Cooperstown and umpired a big tournament down there. I'm still umpiring, and I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed seeing you guys play when I got back out of the military. A lot of you guys already done playing, but I've been following the league and stuff, and I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Glad to see you guys here. I'm Bob Way. I started over in Peru with it. While I played with most of that table right over there, I know that, and most of this table right here. But I played some, like I say, baseball in Peru, and I played some in the Army. And but I just want to thank, like, Elmer and these guys, and especially Everett Erzo, because he was one of my coaches. And we'd come out just like Casey Stengel once in a while, just like Elmer did, kick the dirt around a little bit, And I'm so stumped. I said, where the hell these guys come from now? Give me the ball. I walked a couple guys, give me the ball. What the hell did I do? Yeah. But I'm just so happy that I can be here, with you guys and these guys. There's a lot of talk about Line Mountain, but I'll tell you, Line Mountain was tough boys, good ball players, and some good times up there. And the crowd was, well, all Sable was probably second. We got someone in Peru too, Mrs. Woodward and Mrs. Dupree. They were tough, but good fans. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we try our best up here. We got a nice building for you, and I'm sure we had a darn good dinner, because we'll thank you real factor. But just thanks everybody for coming. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just earlier I was telling Bob and Jim about a story down in Delmar outside of Albany back in '49. The umpires had gone over the rules before the game, and one of the rules was a ground rule. Out in left field was a huge elm tree. I mean, it was full, it was green, quite a ways out, so not too many worried about it. Well, in the first inning, one of the Delmar players hit one out there right through the tree. The guy's running out. That was supposed to be a ground rule double. He goes second, third, he comes home. He gave him a home run. Well, John Flynn walks up and talks to the umpire. He says, "What's going on?" He said, That's an automatic double." He said, "I didn't hear that ball touch one leaf."
Best Pavetta, I played a couple of years on the minors. My name wasn't Chase or Kowalewski, so I didn't start too many games. But I was involved. I managed the team a couple of years, and I kept score, and I did all the fundraising for years. But I'd like to share a couple of little stories. We heard Tom Kowalewski and Kylie Round's health is not good right now. But when John said about Peru beating Lime Mountain, he forgot one big story. There was a play on third base. John Nineounce was playing third base. There was an overthrow. Kylie was sliding into third base. The ball went by John. Kylie could have scored easy, snap her finger. John must have been watching WWE because he put a leg hold on Kylie. He couldn't run. And complained to the umpire, and the umpire didn't see it. I forgot who the umpire was. I don't think it was Pete. But anyway, one little story, another one, for God bless his soul, my friend Tom. We had two teams in Lime Mountain, the Miners and the Lions. And Buddy Paja and I coached the Lions. And the very first time we played the Miners, on Saturday night at the Legion, there was almost a fist fight. It was a big, big rivalry. And Sunday morning, Tom only lives maybe 100 yards from my house. And we were playing them at 1 o'clock. So Tom was outdoors, and I happened to go outdoors. He was raking his yard. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. So Bess gets an idea. I went like this. I didn't holler. We looked down and went like this. He come right down. He says, "What's up?" I said, "I'm going to have a beer. You want one?" "Sure." Anyway, we each drank. I think I had 4. He had 6 slits. I was drinking slits in those days. And I was cooking linguine and clam sauce. Tom likes to eat. Well, he was feeling pretty good. He ate a bowl like this of linguine and clam sauce. He was going up the road like this. He says, "I got it made. He can't play today." We get down to the ball diamond. And Buddy sees Tom walk, just kind of walking a little crooked. Buddy says, "What's the matter with Kowalewski?" He says, "I don't know. I give him 6 slits." Buddy put his arm around me like this. He says, "Vess, you're the smartest man in the world." So anyway, the first inning, I couldn't believe it. Tom put himself in as a DH. He comes up with 2 outs. He was batting third. First pitch, he hits a home run. Coming around third base, Buddy put his arm around me again. He says, "I take everything back I said about you." That was my story.
Pretty hard to top that one. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank Norm, Jim, Bob, Matt for his stories, and Harold on his Legion report, all the ex-ball players. A special thanks to Calvin for recording, and hope to see everyone again next year. Thank you.